Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So this evening I'd like to talk about a certain sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, and this is called the Sarvopama, Mahasarvopama Sutta. And I quite find it a very good sutta to reflect on as we practice the Noble Eightfold Path. And, the sutta begins by saying that, we begin the practice of Dhamma to realize the end of suffering. And just like one would seek the heartwood of a tree, because the heartwood of the tree is the part of the tree that's the most useful. It's the strongest, the hardest. You build with it, it lasts. So this is the beginning, the aim. I'm going to practice the end of suffering. But what can happen is, one settles for some sort of, say, more minor attainment. So even though you set out for the heartwood, you settle for the twigs on the tree, which not in the long run not so useful. If you build anything with twigs, it doesn't persist, it doesn't last. So in the same way, so we start to practice the Dhamma. And first of all, of course, we get knowledge about the Dhamma. We read books, we get all this useful knowledge. And, we start thinking, maybe we know it all. And this sutta is about the ways that conceit can arise. And because of this knowledge and maybe the abilities to express that knowledge, we get quite a following. We become quite well known as a speaker on Buddhism, a Dharma speaker. And we get gains and fame from that ability. And, what can happen then? It's possible that we get a bit carried away with that and we settle for, just being a popular Dharma teacher. And then we start, comparing ourselves with others, saying, well, I can really give good talks, but those other monks, they can't. Those other people can't give talks like me. We start, getting conceited in that way about our abilities to express the Dhamma, because, we can inspire and keep people, interested, inspired by the way we talk on the Dhamma. I think nowadays it's about how many hits you can get on your YouTube channel, isn't it? Well, I have 2,000 people listen to my talk, but those monks only had 20, you know. Yeah, this sort of. So you just settle in for that and not really going further, you say, with the practice. And again, becoming conceited about that ability. But also, you know, conceit, the Buddha way he talked about conceit is the conceit I'm better, but also to be aware of the conceit I'm worse. Or all those other monks really give really good Dhamma talks, but you know, they inspire people. I just put people to sleep, you know. So we can, you know, start, you know, thinking, you know, we're not really very good because we can't give inspiring Dhamma talks, or we can't express the Dhamma in very clear ways. Our knowledge of the Dhamma is not so extensive, whatever. So we can get into more sort of, oh, really should I be a monk because I can't do all this, I can't do this chanting very well, I can't give talks very well, I can't do this very well, maybe I'm not a good monk. But again, it's coming back to what the Buddha said about what is our initial intention of, you know, taking up the holy life. It's about being free from suffering. It's not about being a good Dhamma talker or good at this or exceptional at this. It's about wanting to free the heart from suffering. Yeah. So it's more about abandoning these different types of conceit. Not about being something special, but it's about, you know, letting go of wanting to be anything special. Also, you know, another form of conceit is I can just give talks just as good as that other monk can, or I can do this just as well that person can. The conceit, that one is equal to. That's another conceit. So it's always to, you know, that awareness to, you know, be aware of when this sort of I am comes up in terms of our practice, of what we've achieved, what we've done. And, you know, if also just to be aware, you know, when some people get carried away with fame and gains, they can end up doing things that are not so skillful. Because it's one thing really to be able to have a lot of knowledge and a lot of information and be able to express that. But it's another thing to be able to maintain one's virtue. So, you know, you hear, you know, there's stories about Dharma teachers taking advantage of the disciples, you know, sexually or materially, because a lot of knowledge and abilities to express it, but the virtue and the strength of heart to keep one's virtue is lacking, because one's got carried away with being a Dharma teacher or whatever. So that's the first conceit that limits one. Second one is what I just mentioned about virtue. One does come to a point in practice where one is able to, you know, keep one's precepts, keep one's virtue, keep it well. But then the conceit comes up, you know, I can keep the precepts, but these other people can't. So we become feeling that we're superior to others because we have more precepts, or we can keep them better than others. So this can also be a form of conceit, the sense of feeling superior because, you know, we keep more precepts. Again, you know, if we find it difficult keeping certain precepts, we can get caught into, I'm not very good, I can't keep this precept very well, and we can get into the sort of negative conceit again. So again, the two extremes to be aware of. And of course, with precepts, we renew them every 2 weeks in our tradition because, sometimes we do lose it a bit. So we have to refresh, we have to renew, to make that intention towards virtuous living. Keep on bringing that to mind. So, settling just for virtue and not wanting to go further with the practice is like just settling for the outer bark of the tree. Trying to do something with that. Again, that is, still not the heartwood, not the end of suffering. But, not being satisfied with gains and fame, not being satisfied with having good virtue. We carry on the practice, and because of that, what the practice we've done, we'll realise some state of calm, some state of concentration. And again, then the conceit comes up, my mind's calm, my mind's peaceful, but those people are so all over the place, their minds are all over the place. So we began to feel a sort of a conceit of being superior because of our concentration, our calmness of mind. This actually happened in the time of the Buddha. Usually, sometimes the monks who would study together would be together in groups, and the monks who meditate together might, be more solitude or I don't meditate in groups. But there came some sort of rivalry. So the study monks would say, look at those monks sat over there like dumb hogs, not doing anything, just sat there watching the breath, And then the meditating monks would say, those study monks, their minds are all over the place, So the Buddha, seeing that happen, he encouraged monks, one should appreciate each other's practice. So appreciate the study monks because their abilities to expound the Dhamma and clarify things for people about the Dhamma is very good and useful. And he said to the study monks, the monks who are meditating, they can bring a peaceful atmosphere into a place. And so that also is something that's beneficial. So how both of these, both practices are beneficial, so one should appreciate each other's practice rather than comparing each other, putting each other down. Of course, then there's, the sense of, everybody else is all peaceful in meditation, but my meditation's all over the place, so I'm a hopeless meditator, maybe I should give up. So, to be aware of that too, isn't it? The sort of negative conceit about, again, comparing ourselves with others. Getting caught into the, sort of despondency about one's meditation practice. So again, if we get stuck in that way of thinking, it'll be a limitation. If we also, if we do get just resting on this sort of, I've got a bit of peace of mind now. I don't have to, practice on. I can just settle for this peace of mind and just have a peaceful life, not go any deeper into the practice, and feel good about that, or feel superior about that, or feel hopeless that I'm never going to get anywhere with this meditation and give up. So, just to be aware of this, I am. So, again, my mind's peaceful, but those other people, their minds are all over the place and getting conceited about that. So, this is, the Buddha said, settling for the inner bark of the tree. Again, something that really won't be able to build on something that will sustain. It's not the heartwood. It's not the inner suffering. And how even, even calm states can be shaken if we haven't really have a deeper insight. But some don't just stop with achieving a sense of calm. They go on to deepen their practice, which gives rise to knowledge and insight. In Pali we say jnana dasanam. Certain knowledges can come through the practice of meditation, and certain knowledges like seeing angels, seeing different deities, or the ability to read people's minds, or something, or ability to remember past lives. And then one can get conceited about this too. I can do this, I can do that, but other people can't do it. And I've actually witnessed this happening to certain people, that getting a bit carried away with certain abilities and getting quite conceited about them, to the fact where they're not willing, you can't teach them anymore. I have this ability, I'm superior to you, you can't teach me. It actually happened to one of the great Master Ajahn Mun. One of his disciples developed the ability to know people's minds, and he got conceited about it. He wouldn't listen to Ajahn Mun anymore. Eventually, his practice fell apart, and he didn't come to a very good end. Once I was in a monastery where sort of quite junior monk was saying that he could see past lives of his past lives and the past lives of the other people in the monastery. I did question whether it was actually really, not just his mind proliferating, but again got quite conceited about it. You can't, I can do this now. And through that, the less willingness to listen to one's elders, to listen to people. Of course, also if the emphasis in meditation is about, attaining some sort of ability, seeing lights or seeing devas or seeing this, then of course, if that is your wish for meditation, then when you don't attain to that, again, the negative conceit is, I'll give up, I don't see these lights, I get these experiences like other people do, and get despondent in that way. And there are some people I talk to who think meditation is about seeing lights and and seeing devas and seeing certain things and feeling hopeless because they don't have these sort of experiences that they've heard about. But it's not the heartwood. It's not the end of suffering, is it? Seeing devas or seeing auras, whatever. It's not the end of suffering. remembering past lives. Reading people's minds. And then, again, feeling superior because one has these abilities. So this is, the Buddha said, this is like the softwood. Even though you haven't settled for the twigs, the bark, the inner bark, but now you've settled for the softwood of the tree. Still, it's not the heartwood. But then, not settling for the softwood, one doesn't get carried away with one's these sort of knowledge and visions, and one realizes the heartwood. One realizes the end of suffering, the end of conceit, the end of I am. So this is the heartwood, realizing the heartwood of the tree, which is the useful bit, the bit that will sustain and you can build on. So these are the sort of, the things that the Buddha just asked us to be careful about. And, from practice, it's when we get a bit excited about something that the I am comes up a lot. And, for those who are wise, those who don't get caught up in conceit, they can, if you hear, like with Lumpur Cha, he give a very inspiring talk, but when he go back to his kuti, there's no I am, there's no thoughts of I gave a great talk tonight, I did this, I did that. Just going back to the silence and emptiness of the mind. And that is really the true refuge, is not getting caught up into the thoughts of I am, but we have to just come back to silence and emptiness, no matter, doing something good, some attainment, some achievement, whatever, but we have to come back to silence, emptiness, not getting caught up in the different manifestations of conceit and I am. And, the Buddha said that is actually the supreme happiness, the ending of the conceit, I am. There's other levels of happiness, but this is the supreme. To realize the peace of more an empty mind, where the I am has been let go of. So these are things to maybe consider, to be aware of in our practice. Gains, fame, virtue, settling for virtue, states of calm, special knowledges, all the things that can possibly give rise to a sense of superiority, or when we don't get them, a sense of inferiority. To not get caught up in these, so we can practice to what we actually began to practice for, to realize the end of suffering. So we're not practicing to attain these things, but practicing to end suffering. So that's always good to remind ourselves, especially if we are getting tendency to get caught up in feeling inferior because you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't achieve this, you can't, to realize what is the purpose of the life. And it is about, letting go of the manifestations of I am, to realize the peace of an empty mind. And this is where we'll realize the end of suffering. So I'd like to offer these reflections for you this evening.